that our costs are going up and the growth is going up, and we need to come up with a solution that is, fair and equal, but also looks into the future a little bit, so we're not pushing everything off each year, then all of a sudden hitting the residents with a large increase. I think that, I understand Matt, I think $50,000 for a dump truck is a lot. I mean, I get it, that's just me. That's just me complaining. It's not saying that you're wrong or you're not, you shouldn't be, able to grow and expand your division, as the township grows. So I think we're in a tough situation, but I think that we need to get our pencils out a little bit, but I think that overall the staff's and the management's requests aren't unreasonable. I just think that we need to take it in consideration a little bit more, as and over the next week, 2 weeks, kind of try to get it fine-tuned a little bit, at least for me to be able to make a decision. So that's about what I have to say. Do you have any questions?
Well, let me try to put a bow on this for today. First of all, I want to acknowledge a point that Ken made in his presentation. That is, it's a late hour to be making important decisions, and let me further say that I accept responsibility for having gotten to this late hour where we have important decisions to make. I'm a rookie manager, and we have a new system. We don't have a budget committee as we've had in previous years. That said, the board does need to advertise a draft or a preliminary budget in advance of adopting a final budget. And the sequence of events is that the staff will be looking for the board to adopt a preliminary budget on November the 18th. Okay. I've heard the comments from the two of you, and I'm anxious also to hear comments from Supervisor, Sherbach. We cannot by email deliberate, as in everybody discussing how to change that. Deliberation needs to occur in a public setting. What can be done, however, is the supervisors putting pen to paper on this set of decision points that I've proposed today and telling me whether or not that should stay in the draft that you consider on the 18th. If I could be so bold as to impose on the board to respond to these 8 points, yay or nay, and that's what will appear in your packet for the 18th.
When do you want that done by?
So we, the Monday before the 18th is when the agenda will be distributed. So,
well, I can tell you right now, I don't need any more time. I told you everything on my list. Again, I think some of those you didn't have answers for. I think I'll give you the additional time to the 18th to find those answers out. But there's some of those things that we need to hammer down.
Right.
Why they're going so high when changes have been made to do just the opposite. So,
we'll just plan on having our thoughts to him regardless, though, by just say by the next end of business next Friday, the 12th. That way, you have the weekend to.
Please direct them. Let's not do a reply all on this. You're just sending your thoughts to the manager directly, one-on-one.
Okay.
And then I will aggregate those responses and have a draft for your consideration on the 18th. Mr. Scribner, I would say that there's some interconnectivity to these. So If your answer on number 7 regarding tax rates is a hard no, then it's my professional opinion that we should not be recommending expanding hiring in the absence of cyclical increased revenues.
Yeah, well, I'm a hard
I
no on
understand
the,
there's a
tax-
value in
tax-
efficiency.
I'm a hard no on the taxes for the real estate, yes.
That's going to have an impact on producing a balanced budget for your
I
consideration.
don't think it will. I think, like I told you, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit on here that can be adjusted, and that would change everything. So, I honestly, and I hate to put you on the spot here, I feel like it was done well, but it wasn't done fantastic. It was done in a hurry-up offense at the last minute. We should have had the Finance Committee working on this for 6 months. It's not your fault. That's the thick and the thin of it. It should have been worked on for 6 months, not 1 month.
Well, I think there's a lot of unknowns still too, though. So once we get the unknowns.
We've
from the
never
health-
had this problem at the 11th hour when we had a
Not knowing.
Finance Committee. Never.
Of not knowing what the insurance rates are gonna be.
It doesn't matter. You have a Finance Committee working on this for 6 months out of the year, and you guys chose to end that. So here we are.
I understand that, but even if we had a finance committee for 6 months, Mr. Scribner.
We
even
wouldn't be
to- even
working
to
on
this-
it in the last
To this
hour.
day, though, we don't have those numbers, so it would be
You
kind of.
would have had somebody working on the RFP 6 months ago. That's what you would have.
I think that, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that there's certain things that are outside of anyone's control, but as far as, you know, I think that it's a budget. It's presented as presented. I mean, there's always gonna be a little bit unknowns, but we try to get as much as we know down as far as, and we could always make adjustments as the years goes on with a quarter. But like, as far as like Luke, like if you could do, like, you know, your hire for like 2022, you know, obviously it'd be an RFP. So you're looking at the second quarter, at least at the earliest, probably third. So, you know, just put, you know, it's like $27,000 in there. It looks a little bit easier to work with as far as when we know what the actual dollars are. But as far as the overall presentation, I think it's fine. I would have to imagine that from Carl's comments and Kyle's that we will be returning to a budget committee. So I think, is that something that you prefer? Luke, is that easier for you? This has been the first year with that one. What is your thoughts as far as, obviously with the, you know, with the family health and everything else is not, you know,
Yeah,
put that aside,
yeah.
I don't want to hear about that anymore. But as far as overall and generally, do you find that the committee would be helpful?
Yeah, well, let me say that
'Cause I think you're
for
against
what
it.
we anticipated as a budget process for 2022, we are behind schedule. But I would submit that we are 7 days behind schedule, not 6 months behind schedule. Because the only thing that we have missed was having a dedicated public meeting where these things were presented to the board.
Which would have been last
Right,
Thursday.
so let's say the goals we set for ourselves in a new environment where there was no budget committee, we have missed one deadline, and it is 7 days.
How can you say that you're not that far behind when the Budget Committee would have already met 6 to 8 times by now? How can you say you're down 7 days?
Because there was no budget committee this year.
I understand that. So how can you say from this year to last year, you're really only down seven days?
Because last year,
No.
we would have received the budget
Nope.
7 days ago at the Thursday meeting.
You're down to the last minute is what you're down to, but your 6 months, you would have had of people working on this, a group of people working on this, not cramming it in at the last month.
Well,
Yeah,
okay. Well, we're not gonna keep
so,
going over and over
look,
again.
part A of the question.
You think it's helpful?
Right, so part A of the question is that yes, by the standards of previous years, we have done less deliberation by this date. By the standards we set for this year, in the absence of a budget committee, we are 7 days behind schedule.
And asking for a tax increase when 6 years prior, no tax increase.
Well, that's just because there hasn't been a
That's
tax
'cause
increase.
But that,
Because of poor
the
planning.
tax increase is also a recommendation of me, and this is the first year you've had me as a manager.
True, too.
I think that there is limited general, there's a limit to how much increased efficiency we can get out of. We're looking at a structural, cyclical problem with our township's needs exceeding the township's revenues. And I'm saying, as the new manager, I'd like to see a tax increase. Now, as it relates to the Budget Committee, the Budget Committee had one tremendous advantage that was missed this year, and that was keeping staff, I'm only going to use staff, I'm going to say me, on schedule. The existence of a Budget Committee represents additional work for which we have less staffing. Last year,
Staff doesn't need to be there for every meeting. If the budget committee has everything that they need, they can give you their recommendations, and then staff can get involved. It's a volunteer group of
But he still
people.
has to schedule, he still has to
I'm-
be there, he still has the chairs, the room, the
would
calendar.
like to make
it's-
just the point that there was a budget committee in previous years, and that budget committee was staffed by the assistant township manager. We don't have an assistant township manager. I'd like to bring one back.
As far as, I do have a question, though. As far as the fire company, and as far as us, the board, we're supporting you, the township supporting you. I was under the impression that we were going to allocate and adjust the fire services tax to cover the actual amount, solely that amount, not a separate, so nothing, so we're almost separating everything. So, okay, you have a new fire building, which you were in need of, is going to be paid for by adjustment of the fire service tax because we're doing that project now. I don't think that I'd like to see a line item separate to try to make up a difference for fire building that, or capital improvement that we supported when we have a fire service tax for that purpose.
I think that's just how Luke presented on paper. The fire company didn't ask how the township was doing.
No, I'm just thinking, I thought we were discussing as a whole as far as that we were going to pay for anything.
After that motion was made in before we started construction, the fire company added an additional $100,000 to our budget to support the construction costs.
Okay.
Our income.
Okay.
To support that based off of the motion made last year.
Yeah, I remember because we didn't know at the time what it was going to be, but I still thought that we were going to be
Well-
adjusting the fire service tax.
Earlier, I mean, there's plenty of reports, and we can share with you guys the total income and expense, and obviously, it's part of our monthly financial report.
No, I know. I'm just thinking as a township. I'm not really I guess I'm not really. It wouldn't be you, like the fire company, but you're just going by what the board said. But I thought the board, we were going to be paying for it from fire services tax increase solely. Am I
It was
crazy?
that, if you remember, that meeting, we were hurry up offense for that as well,
Yeah, I
because you
remember.
guys
So
were getting ready to
in the
put
bond,
dirt, start digging, or start building. And so, and you guys, I don't even think we're 100% sure of everything of your parameter as well. But regardless, there's this COVID money that the federal grant, all that, we got to get on the horn and figure this out, because it's not doing anybody any good just sitting there.
Yeah, I know the Treasury hasn't released it, but my read, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has a tremendous amount of information on these ARPA funds. And that's some of the feedback that I shared with you guys is, based off my read, again, I'm not the administrator of it, so there's a lot of, legalese and fine tune. It does seem to support some of those initiatives provided. And based off my understanding in the industry in general, there's a lot of large capital work projects for that. It's primarily the ventilation of public spaces, and the fire department is while it's a private institution, it's a public space, and it's often very public, and that's one of the major funding streams for that, is to have proper ventilation in these large public gathering spaces.
No, there's definitely, as I said, I'm sure maybe I'm mistaken, but I can't imagine we're the only township just sitting there looking at it saying, what do we do with it? I'm sure someone's done something.
Well, we have 4 years, so it'll be, probably most likely go into the capital reserves anyhow. So, I think is there any other questions from the audience or anyone for this budget? So we're gonna each board member is gonna get back with Luke individually by 12th to move this forward, and then if there's any other questions, let's move on. The Estates of Down Forge, There's a escrow release that was prepared by Pannoni, dated October 29th. The recommendation for the release is $126,586.28. Do you have any questions or concerns? So I'll make a motion to approve the recommended release prepared by Pannoni for the amount of $126,586.28 to be returned to.
Just before you, did the residents have any input on this? Anybody send you any emails or anything?
I haven't seen an email from a resident from, they were gonna show up the last meeting, but then they
They
decided
did
not
not.
to,
I've
so we're
been
still waiting.
sending them information and keeping them updated on everything that's going on. I did not share this with them.
Well, so that would be the only reason I would like to put this on hold if we could, because if the residents aren't informed, they were a big integral part of this, and to turn this over without having, second of all, we also haven't got any updates from Conservation District on this, have we?
Right, so,
We still have $2.8 million.
No, I understand, but trust
But
me.
I don't
when it-
think we're permitted to withhold funds for.
Absolutely. If they're not following Chester County Conservation District's guidelines and we're handing out checks,
But I believe this isn't for anything, this is just for just improvements. They actually improved, that were inspected and approved by our engineers. I mean, you have the sediment trap number 2.
but the sediment trap was the biggest issue of what we just dealt with.
Correct, so they did it, so they should be releasing, they did the work to sediment trap number 2 and number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. The amounts are here, is inspected by Pannoni and approved, so I don't think that I understand what you're saying, but I don't think that that this is the time or the proper procedure to do that.
Luke,
But obviously, though, if you're not gonna vote,
I was
mean,
going
we
to
don't-
say, I'll defer,
so-
we're not in an immediate time crunch to get this back. What, the residents, I feel as though should be, and if you don't mind having Lisa, at least send them out an email saying, hey, escrow funds are about to be released on some of these issues. I would love to know their,
I'd like, I may call on Solicitor Sir Jonas on this, if there's an MPC implication. But what's before you is a recommendation from the Township's engineer to release the escrows for completed improvements at the development. It is the 4th release, and it is not the final release.
No, I
Additional
understand.
funds remain escrowed.
is Mark on the horn with us?
I am.
What is your take on that, Mark? You were part of that other meeting, I think, when the residents were here.
Yeah, I think that if the township engineer has signed off on it, I think that's something that the Board of Supervisors should rely upon.
Okay. Because it's for the infiltration beds, concrete and building block, and miscellaneous stuff, but I don't think the residents would even be able to, at this point, it's a process, and I think they're following the process. We're just not there yet as far as.
When's their next escrow payment due, Luke?
Depends on when they.
Okay, so this escrow is not in the form of cash. This is a line of credit that they've established.
Right.
Based on the total calculations of public improvements in this development. Over time, as the developer completes the improvements, they make requests to have that portion of the escrow released. So you can see in the column that says this period, the things for which the developer has indicated they have completed and the engineer has agreed have been completed, and they're asking for a release. There is no more, there are no more payments anticipated, and furthermore, there is no cash implication in processing this release. We would write to their bank and say, you may release this security.
They're not even attainable. Okay. Are you okay with?
Yeah,
what do
I
you wanna
mean,
do? I mean,
again,
it's up
in
to
the
you. What do you
future,
wanna
I
do,
just
though?
don't want this
understand.
getting snuck in under the radar of those residents, but understanding that Pannoni's been there, that's okay. The fact that we had a conservation district issued letter that we haven't gotten 100% hold of, but in the future, I want the residents informed.
Sure. No, I agree. I think that, I think they will be. I think that for this, though, I agree. I think we should go ahead and release it per Solicitor Jonas as well as Nate.
So moved.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So just so the public does know that we just voted to approve the release of $126,586.28 that was requested by the Estates of Down Forge for their financial security release number 4. Thank you. Moving on to Resolution 8 of 2021, which is for the pending application for the disaster release, just authorizing us as the agents. Do you have any issue? No. Luke, is there anything else that we're just?
This is a required hoop that we must jump through to apply for the Pennsylvania Emergency Management funds that are available to make repairs for Hurricane Ida. The projects for which I intend to apply for assistance are the replacement of the culvert over the old Horseshoe Pike. It's currently a section of road that is closed. Repairs to scour damage caused at Bondsville Mill Park, including to the bridges in Bondsville Mill Park.
Okay. You good with that?
Yep.
Okay. So Resolution 8 of 2021, designation of agent resolution for the Presidential Major Disaster DR 4618, and I so move. All in favor?
I second.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on non-agenda items? Okay, well, with that, do I have a notice to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.